All right. Good afternoon, everyone. According to where you are in the world, but I think we'll mostly be in the afternoon session. Great to be welcoming everyone to our reward hour for March. Today we're going to be talking about how to align rewards strategy with business goals with our guests and co-hosts, really, Figen and Anastasia. I'm defaulting to the Greek accent there. I'm sorry. But yeah, we're looking forward to the conversation. Let's give it maybe another 20-30 seconds, and then we'll kick off. But looking forward to it. Yeah, this might be a good time actually to do the housekeeping for Livestorm, the platform that we're running this webinar on. Do use the channel, the sort of chat function on the, I think it'll be the bottom right-hand corner, at least it is for me. Don't hesitate to introduce yourself, tell us where you're joining from. It's always nice to see who's participating. We also have the questions channel. Again, that should be on the bottom right of your screen. Feel free to drop questions in there. Alternatively, if you drop them into the chat functionality, that's okay too. They'll sort of reach us behind the scenes. And yeah, do sort of concentrate fully. We'll be following up afterwards with the recording if there's anything you wanted to rewatch, or if you had to sort of drop off. Yeah, we'll be sharing the recording later. Cool. So I think we're ready to kick off. So today we're going to be talking about how rewards is a really strategic initiative with very direct impact on a company's bottom line, whether that's through hiring, retaining, motivating talent towards achieving what the mission is, what our company goals are. And of course, it's all about managing payroll, and often very complex payroll. But it can sometimes be really tricky to get leadership buy-in on how strategic and how strategically important a reward strategy actually is. And it can also be quite complicated to keep rewards closely aligned with business goals and business priorities, especially when those priorities keep shifting and changing, which a lot of the time in the tech world they do pretty quickly. So that's what we'll be discussing today, and do drop in questions as we're progressing through the next hour or so. But I wanted to hand over to our guests to introduce themselves. Anastasia, do you wanna kick off?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Anastasia Efremova. I work as Global Total Rewards Director in the Semrush. I have 16 years of experience in HR and 14 years in rewards. I worked in different industries and companies of different sizes in manufacturing, FMCG, logistics, and currently work in growing IT company. So I'm very happy to be here and to talk through the alignment of the reward strategy and the business strategy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Excited for the discussion. Over to you, Figen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Figen, as Vaso said. I have a small, very boutique consultancy, and I work with a lot of startup scale-up organizations. I've stopped counting after 20 years experience in reward. I'm sure it's much more than that, but in-house as well as, firstly freelancer and then having my own tiny consultancy in the last 6 years. We cover all the topics from compensation, benefits, equity, and I am really happy to be part of the group today, and just to share my insights that what I see with my clients with regards to how we align the reward strategy with the business vision, mission, and goals.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to learning from both of you. Actually. Okay, so if we sort of kick off now, one of the things that we've heard a lot about from our customers is that employee compensation is often seen as a really sort of administrative necessity. So it has to work, and we hear about it when it doesn't, very loudly. But it isn't always seen as a strategic lever to drive progress towards towards commercial goals. I wanted to ask the audience as well to what extent they feel that the leadership team at your current company understand the strategic value of the total rewards. And I will publish this poll, which I think should come up in people's screens, and then hopefully we can get a bit of a sense check here. Interesting. Okay, so a lot of sympathy with the two people who say no, they don't get it at all, because that's not going to be fun. My sympathies. Let's talk later about how we can help you. But yeah, okay. So we're pretty close at the top with mostly get it or somewhat get it. We have 17% that completely get it, but I'm also one of those votes, and I think I have a very unique set of founders and leadership teams. So maybe ignore my vote. But interesting. So we just tied at 40%. Mostly get it, somewhat. Great. Now, when you've experienced a situation before around, to what extent does to what good extent does the leadership team understand the strategic value? What has helped, Anastasia, what has helped the senior stakeholders see rewards as something that they can strategically leverage?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I really experienced this situation when the business owners see the rewards function more as a gatekeeping or cost control only, not as a strategic enabler. And I absolutely experienced this when I joined Semrush. It was a company on the growth phase. So there was no rewards in place, and I had to build it from scratch. And of course, you start with alignment of the rewards with the business strategy. And I have a few learnings which out of this path that helped me to build this alignment with the business. So I have 3 key steps to follow. So the first one, it's very important to speak with business on the same language. Often HR approach to the business talking about, let's say, HR-related things like engagement, talent pools, and so on. But this is not what business is expecting. They talk about their revenue growth, their net income, cost control, and it's crucial to create this alignment and to show how rewards can foster the growth. So let's just take a simple example of the pay equity topic, which is currently quite challenging. And at the table, if you say we need to make the pay equity, we need to pay more, we need to drive cost. No, that is not the way how you can sell it to the business. But you can sell it through showing how pay equity will boost the diversity in your company, and how diversity will bring the advantage of the profit innovation. There's quite a lot of research from McKinsey or BCG today that show how that boosts. So, and this is the other language that you speak, and then you get the attention from your business owners. So this is the first step. Also, I believe that you need to include them into the creation of the reward tools. So you do not impose, you make them co-creators, and then they advocate for it because they made effort to make it work, and then, okay, yes, that is something we need to follow. And lastly, I believe that we should tell stories about the data. We should use it not only as a graph. So these graphs, we all have a lot of graphs, but we should show how the tools and processes that we implement brings a business impact. So this alignment can create the strong presence of the rewards at the strategic table. And this is what actually helped me.
Yes, couldn't agree more. And just to echo, a few of the things that you've said in the organizations that I've worked at, which have mostly been small companies that grew quickly. Or mostly, let's call it like less than 500 people, with one exception. I've always had to work with very opinionated founders and CEO founders on compensation. It's a topic that's that people care about. And I've often found it very difficult to sort of get my point across to to folks who are opinionated and care viscerally about how they pay their employees. And it sounds really basic, but the way to influence is, of course, by what I found to be effective for me is to make sure that that my CEO founders sort of feel heard, and that I empathize with what it is that they're trying to achieve, for the end goal to be, but then influence by hitting them with the data which they understand, the terms that they understand, the business language. And then, being able to tell the story using the data and the language that they, that they intrinsically understand, I think has been, has helped me over the years. Figen, how about you?
Well, from my perspective, I guess as a freelancer, there has to be a need in the organization for us to step in. So we see that need usually some sort of a change happening in the organization. Either the organization has managed to thrive in some way, and now something needs to change. But most of the time, what we see is an appointment of a new chief people officer in the organization. And our way into that table is through the chief people officer that knows that reward is a really big part of not just the people function, but the entire organization. In reward, we do have a direct impact to the bottom line, right? How we spend that money, it does really impact the businesses. So most of the time when we work with chief people officers who have just joined the organization, and they know that the first thing they need to do is understand how they pay people. We have numerous conversations that say, I ask the questions, how do we pay people? How do we make these decisions? And they just say, we just make them, we do whatever we need to do to make them join the organization. So our way to those strategic conversations are through the chief people officer, who is really, really acutely aware that without structure, you cannot grow, and you don't understand how you do certain things. And sometimes when, as I said, the changes have happened in the organization, and they just need us to align that part of the business to the organizational North Star. This is what we aim to achieve. This is how we want to grow. This is what we want to do. How do we bring our people, and as Anastasia said, how do we get them to see, our kind of, as I said, North Star, and align the people, the entire organization, to understand what do we leverage within the reward, and how do we define that reward strategy. So my conversations tend to be around, tell me what the organization stands for, tell me what you as founders stand for, you as CEO stands for, and that's what we should stand for as a in our reward strategy. And then we start building the philosophy, we start building the principles, and then everything gets underpinned onto that. So yeah, we have two ways of getting into those conversations: one through the CPOs, and one actually directly through founders and CEOs who understand the importance of structure, and everybody sing off the same hymn sheet.
I mean, there's a lot to consider basically when you're trying to align the reward strategy with the business priorities. There's a lot of moving parts, but it's also the business priorities, especially in our world, they differ across different parts of the business, but they also change over time too. But you can't sort of, keep changing people's pay like left, right, and center. So it's there's a lot to achieve and it's complex. But how should we balance the different strategic needs of different departments or for example, office locations? Anastasia?
Yeah. So I usually have one anchor principle here is you think global, act local. So it's quite crucial to have the global framework, global message that you bring into your structures and tools, but the realization can differ locally. Well, the perfect example here will be the benefits, for instance. So you can have the same principles, what you deliver in your benefit offering. Like in Semrush, we have the core principles that we support mental and emotional stability, physical health, financial health, and social and community interactions. But realization can really differ in United States, in European location, or in Asia, because we do what market really requires there. But overall, the global principles are the same and aligned. And absolutely the same principle I share when we need to adapt to the different priorities inside the different divisions of the organization. So, for instance, sales function may need more emphasis on variable compensation. It's totally fine. So you do not need to push them into the standard framework. You need to act thoughtfully here, listen to your stakeholders, to your leaders, but still have the global message to employees, for them to understand what are the principles of the company, what are the cornerstones of your compensation strategy, and that will help to build trust and transparency.
And related, I think, there's also the extra challenge of how to balance the sort of long-term strategy with, a company's short-term immediate needs. So it might be that you need to hire, you've had a lot of churn in one specific business critical team, or there's like a major external sort of macro shift, whether that's, I don't know, COVID or, a massive tech market slump, or whatever it might be. Any advice, Figen, over to you?
Yes, we do have many tools to juggle in reward, and someone said to me, "God, reward is as much science as it's art." To Anastasia's point earlier, it's you have all of these things, and you can say this is what we want to do, but then you start tweaking things, and that's where the artistic and creativity piece comes. It's easy to come up with a global approach. It's not then you implement those locally. Same as, while your ship is sailing nicely, in the quiet ocean, suddenly, bam, a storm comes in. It could be, hyperinflation in one of your markets where you need to deal with, or in another market, as you said, it might be difficult to recruit, or you're bleeding talent, or whatever's happening at that time, or things like COVID. So, whilst you're thinking, over here, I'm just going to implement a new benefits administration platform, or sign up new data, or whatever it is, and we're going to be delivering those beautiful things, the curveball comes in, and then you need to juggle all of them at the same time. So as reward experts, I think we tend to do a lot of we're kind of unsung heroes. I think we do a lot of juggling in the back, in the background, and everything happens, and then we come up at the front of our customers, and we're like smiling, but we have probably just subsided a workforce, maybe some being unhappy, or spoke to work councils or whatever has happened. So yes, we do a lot of juggling.
Oh, absolutely. And I am totally, in favor of the, reward leaders being unsung heroes and, complete, the patience of a saint, the grit of, I don't know, what sort of military metaphor I can think of, but absolute, absolute hero, for sure. And I guess related to the sort of macro shifts, sort of zoning in a little bit more, how do we prepare for major challenges in a company's journey? For example, it might be like a very rapid expansion, or preparing for an acquisition, an IPO. Over the past few years, we've had a lot of cost cutting, a lot of decline, a lot of redundancies. How do we sort of prepare ourselves for that? Yeah.
I think when you're preparing for things like an IPO or an acquisition, sometimes you have, most of the times you have a bit of time. If it's an acquisition, you're going through due diligence. If it's IPO, you're preparing everything. So there is a deadline that you kind of trying to reach to. Things like the reduction in the workforce, or something like COVID, or as I said, hyperinflation, something that you cannot foresee, something that doesn't come with a deadline, that doesn't say, oh, by the way, we're just about, our currency about to lose value by about 150% in about 3 months.
There's a heads up.
Yes, this is heads up. Maybe you want to do something about it. Think about some strategies, how you're going to mitigate that. We don't get that advanced notice. So those are really difficult to prepare for. I would say even expansions, you do have a bit of notice, especially if you have done some before. If you entered new markets before, you almost have some sort of a default playbook that you don't think, okay, I know how I've done it before. I'll just take the best practice out of it, apply it, and start connecting with different people, different entities, or benefit providers, whatever it is, to start setting those up, having those conversations. So you kind of know what you're getting into. Is those adverse moments that you don't see them coming, and that you really have to think on your feet. I think that's really what it boils down to in reward.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think one thing that I've personally benefited from is the peer network. So any kind of community of which we're sort of able to lean on people who are going through a similar experience, or who have done it before, or even just hey, are you struggling with this? Yes, I am. Let's have a cry, or a brainstorming session. That can be really powerful, I think, and it's definitely something that I've benefited from and still do. So I think of particular importance for the reward leaders as unsung heroes that we mentioned before. And just out of interest from our audience, I'm going to publish another poll now around which of the challenges that we've sort of touched on just now. So in aligning rewards and reward strategy with business goals, which one of the challenges has been most challenging, I think, in folks' experience? And I mean, I would definitely sort of click on everything, but if there's anything that's you particularly struggled with, that might also be interesting to have another another deep dive session on. Yeah. Interesting. Mm. Okay, so yeah, so big periods of decline and cost cutting, likely due to what we've lived through over the past 5 years. Balancing the needs of different departments, around 23% right now. Yeah, that's a constant. And then looks like, oh, joint third. Okay, joint third. We've got balancing long-term strategy with short-term needs, or preparing for IPO and M&A. And interestingly, I think balancing the needs of different office locations and new geographies, which have come in last, is probably related to the number one point, i.e. periods of decline and cost cutting, because we've not seen loads of, they're probably sort of mutually exclusive there. So so that makes sense. Okay, interesting. Super. So moving on to the next sort of bit of the conversation, let's talk a little bit about designing bespoke reward strategies for, for the companies that we work at and will go on to work at later. It can be, and I've definitely done this, it can be really tempting to develop a playbook to sort of, plug and play when you join a new company and, are responsible for designing a reward strategy. Well, is it, and to what extent is it important to align with the specific goals, values, culture, mission, etc., of a unique company? So I guess the question is, in your experience, is it important, and why is it important to tailor reward strategies to the specific makeup of that company?
Yeah, I can share some of my experience here, as I switched to the Semrush as a growing IT business from a manufacturing company oriented more on the cost leadership and standard models. And I can definitely say that each company is unique and each culture is unique. And you cannot just copy paste the culture to the company, and you cannot copy paste compensation. So your goal is to create a tailored compensation for the company you're working for. You already have, as a professional, unique toolkit, your knowledge, and you need to understand what will be working the best in your new company. So it's always about, as I said before, it's about the co-creation. It's about the alignment with the business goals, with the maturity phase of the company, and it also might be changing over time, and it should change. When I started to build compensation from scratch, I just realized that, well, I need to rethink all my previous experience and to think, how can I build something that makes sense to this particular business? How can I help this business to reach its strategic goals? What tools will be most valuable for this particular company? Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of work with leaders. It's a lot of conversation to understand what are really the needs, what's on the table. And then you can create your unique design and your unique compensation strategy.
Yeah, I mean, completely agreed. And anecdotally, I remember when in a previous role that I joined, that I really struggled in, actually. One really basic thing that I realized is even the language that I was using, was so out of place there. It didn't, for me, it was so natural to use the language that I had been used to and, that I use professionally, but it was completely out of context in that particular company. And the impact of that, so through my use of I don't know, I guess tech terms or terms that were, unique to the previous company that I was, the impact of that meant that I lost all credibility to, to my leadership team and to my CEO. So it was an own goal, really embarrassing, to be honest, but something that I remember, viscerally, that I just kind of thought, it's fine. Everyone Everyone thinks like that. Everyone uses those terms. No, I was wrong, and the impact was that I lost my credibility, and I ultimately, ultimately couldn't deliver. But yeah, I guess, Figen, as a consultant, you've worked with many different companies to establish, reward strategies. What are some of the key variances you see, and how do you ensure that the strategies that you support teams to roll out are appropriately tailored for each business?
It's important to understand the DNA of the business. It really is. I think for me, what I try to do is to weave what that organization stands for into their reward strategies. What do they stand for? What do they aim to become? What is their vision? Why do they exist? That all needs to be translated, into that reward strategy, so that the reward strategy and the business strategy actually evolve hand in hand. They're intrinsically tied, that you can't change one without changing the other. And it's a very good question, because I have gone to so many, or I've had so many conversations where they say, we need something quick. Do you have something off the shelf? And I say, no, no. He's off the shelf, you know. So one size doesn't fit all, even when we see nice clothes on the shop window, we go and it doesn't look on me like it looks on them. It just doesn't. Same with the reward strategy, it just doesn't fit, even if you try and crowbar it. So our first focus is to understand the business, understand their values, understand their mission, understand their vision, and as I said, weave all of those into the reward strategy, and then try and replicate that into some sort of a some sort of a feel for each and every person, to say, oh right, so when they say in this organization that they're really, it's like a family feel organization, I do feel like I'm a part of the family, because my company looks after me and my family, right? They make sure that if I can't come to work, I can work from anywhere else. I have health insurance for my entire family. Whatever it is that that statement that the company makes, it's supported by the reward strategy behind it. And that's how we actually connect that really deep connection between the employees and the mission and the values and the culture of the organization. So that's the first thing that we do before we start building the strategy. And then depending on that strategy, we then start thinking about how is the compensation structure designed, how is the benefit designed, to always go back and reflect to the company's DNA. And that's the only way that we have seen it work really well.
Absolutely. And I can think of two examples that immediately come to mind. One is a reward focused, and the other is culture focused. I'll share the culture focused one first. So Patagonia obviously sort of stand for sustainability, trying to be environmentally focused. So I can't remember the exact value that they, I'm sorry, I can't remember it, but I remember the example. One thing that they've committed to is if you are an employee of Patagonia and you are arrested or imprisoned because you are in an activist position against, for example, I don't know, oil rigging or whatever, they have committed to covering all your legal fees to get out of legal trouble. Now it's it obviously won't be appropriate for everyone, but what a great way to put your money where your mouth is, in that here's how much this particular value is embedded in our organization, that we will actually cover your legal fees if you're an activist. And then similarly, much smaller example, but here at Ravio, obviously, we think about compensation, all day. We consult companies about it. We live it, we live and breathe it. And one of the things that I was really worried about, I think, coming into this role is that, you know, if I'm going to lead the people function, I need to be like really behind the reward strategy of this company, because otherwise I'm going to lose my own credibility. And one of the things that, you know, I'm really proud of, and I hope to be able to take, you know, in whatever role I end up in over my life, is what, you know, my personal value that I believe, if you want to build an outstanding generational company, then, you know, you also need to make sure that folks are rewarded appropriately to deliver that kind of standard. And so, you know, we will be sharing our comp philosophy as well over the next couple of quarters or so. But you know, we have been very bullish in how we think about our compensation, because it's something that that drives us and is a part of our DNA, as you said, Figen. Anastasia, like how at the moment, how does it look like at you know, at Semrush? How are you aligning the rewards and the strategy at this point in time?
Well, that is a great question, because our compensation strategy was developed in 2023, and this year we are going to review it as we are going. So we are growing and we are switching to more early maturity phase rather than to the rapid growth. So we're also expanding our geographies, and we need to be more structured to understand that we are moving towards pay equity and pay transparency. This is a big enabler in our compensation strategy. And we also now articulate a lot the relation between pay and performance. So in previous stages of the company growth, we were more focused on growth. We were more focused on building the best working teams, retaining the top talent. And now when we are in this scalability phase, and we need to focus on performance goals, on this overall business alignment more. And this will be the cornerstone of our strategy. And also, we are a tech company. So for us, as a technology part of the business is quite important. And we also look on what the future work looks like, what we should think forward in our strategy. So so we think about the technology phase, and we think about how we can adapt the AI into our compensation, what can be done better, what can be automated, what can be done differently. So this is something that we are going to include in our compensation strategy creation this year.
Yeah, really appreciate your insight there, and it actually aligns with something that Vanessa's put in the chat. That I just want to call out that it is good to have a playbook of what questions to ask, etc. But what you do will depend on the culture, commercial state, and reward start point of any company. Because it sounds like, Anastasia, that you know, previously you were more focused on sort of building the, you know, this very strong team, and it might be that you know, being crystal clear about how compensation is thought through, you know, wasn't the top priority at that point in time. But now it's more front of mind as you're sort of thinking a little bit more about paying for performance, future proofing, future of work, etc. So a little bit of a change there of what the like starting point was, or like whatever. There's an evolving of the reward there. Great. Okay, super. And then one thing that also comes up a lot, and it sort of went out of fashion for a bit and then came back into fashion, is the role of like bonus plans for one, but also how to leverage like different elements of total comp in order to drive business success. So obviously we have a lot of levers in our hands to drive the employee behaviors and outputs that we're aiming for in order to achieve like you know, our goals. Some of those are you know, obviously merit increases, equity refreshers, bonus, recognition programs, promos, etc. But there's a lot of talk around variable pay, which tends to be less utilized by companies, I think, other than, of course, for the commercial divisions and specifically sales. Now, I actually had a look at Ravio's variable pay benchmarking data, and just to give a very, very top-level view on how companies use variable, the most common functions to offer it are, not surprisingly, sales and customer success. And it's usually a commission structure rather than a performance bonus. So in sales, 74% of companies provide variable pay, and the average package is around 31.5% OTE. Within customer success, 65% of companies provide variable pay, and the average is 20% OTE. Now, across other functions, it's much, much, much lower. So engineering, for example, only 31% of companies offer any form of variable comp to engineers. And I've included people here as well because it's us, it's our group. Within people and marketing as well, that's even lower than tech roles. So at around 26% of companies for both. And there is also a location difference there as well. So with that in mind, let me launch this other poll around to what extent does your company use variable pay as a strategic lever? And then let's see what the group comes up with. So yeah, so looks like okay. So we're using bonuses for employee performance. 25% commission based for commercial roles only, and then actually pretty high, 23% bonuses for company performance. So it looks like it is, it is a lever that is used in as a group, our companies. Now, do people think that, to what extent are they effective for driving business goals? And in what context or what kind of scenarios or companies might mean that they aren't the right option? And if I can give a personal example, like I've previously had bonuses aligned to like specific objectives that I had to deliver as a people leader. And don't get me wrong, it's always nice to receive. But I often thought that, this isn't a driver. If I didn't have this, I would work just as hard. Like, it's not, for me personally at that stage of my life, it definitely was not the main driver. So I often thought, like, God, am I just sort of getting a freebie here? So in my case, it actually wasn't driving, certainly wasn't driving additional performance. So yeah, I'm sort of in two minds about how effective it is. Anastasia, is that something that you've considered at Semrush or elsewhere?
Yeah, actually, at Semrush, we have quite a restrictive bonus application, but we have many other leverages that help us to foster the performance. And of course, we use the sales commission. That's kind of a must. But in my experience and beliefs, you need to have very well-tailored structure of your bonuses.
Yes.
And aligned with the corporate goals and reasonable, measurable individual targets. It's crucial. And so managers should understand how they contribute into it. They should trust. And there should be some revision process during the year of these targets, because sometimes these targets are not making sense. And people just say, oh, okay, I'm not going to reach that goal anyway. It's failed anyway. So I'm not going there. I don't care.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely a situation you want to avoid. And so, secondly, I believe it's important to avoid situations when bonuses can seen as a restriction. So, in innovative companies, people can people should focus more on innovation, on risk taking, on creativity. Bonuses which just narrow their mind into one or two KPIs can be not the best solution to follow. So you should be thoughtful on where you apply bonuses, where not. Also depends on the maturity phase of the company, as I mentioned before. But usually for mature companies, I strongly believe that having bonuses for at least senior and middle management will create alignment.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's really interesting to think about how, well, you don't want the bonus to drive a behavior or an output that you don't want, or that might be even catastrophic for the business. So it's important to make sure that it all agrees, so the output agrees with what you're actually incentivizing. Figen, any anecdotes or stories or insights to add?
Yeah, definitely. I think I think mature organizations, the big corporations, we're used to seeing bonus structures with those, and I have been privy to some big corporates to see how good looks like, and it really works, and it really incentivizes, the what and the how, because you can't have the what without having the how, and it's the really good kind of partnership between, managing individual performance, but also managing the company performance, because it's almost like sharing that success with your wider organization, right? We had profitable years, so why not share that success with the rest of the organization? My is it concerns, I don't know what I would call it, is that we should, especially in startups, cash-strapped startups, we should really be applying creative reward and looking at the way how we can leverage all of those elements of total reward without having to so heavily put everything onto the base pay, right? Because it's a startup, we don't have the mature ecosystem of benefits, right? So what can we do? Oh, we can just give them a bit more equity and a bit more cash on the base, which, both at some point, maybe not right then, but I have seen again many times that has an impact later on, because equal pay for equal work, all of those coming up and have been always there. Paying someone more their base pay right now just to get them on board creates a problem when you start building the teams, right? It creates a massive gap, because when you start building the team, you may not be in that position to just pay more, right? So what else can you do? And this is what I say again, the creative reward. So I'm a strong advocate of bonuses. Bonuses can be self-funding if you work with a really good chief finance officer. You can create self-funding bonus if you design it well. Even the most junior employee in your organization can see what they do, how that links to what their manager does, and how what their manager does links to the corporate goals. So absolutely, what Anastasia said, a well-designed bonus plan, a well-understood bonus plan will work 9 out of 10 times, and will not be seen as something like, oh, it's a nice thing, but it will be seen like, right, these were my goals, this is what the company is aiming for, and this is how I have contributed to it, and therefore now that we've reached those, the company is thanking me for my hard work, right, on top of what I do on a daily basis. So yes, I'm a strong advocate of, especially at the beginning, just use everything you can, be a bit more creative, don't throw the money onto it, because it will come back to bite. Just use everything that you can to attract and retain people in the organization. And bonus, for me, I'm a strong advocate of it. Bonus should definitely be one of it.
Yeah, I agree. I've also seen bonuses being used effectively in a surprise and delight element. So, you know, sometimes, well, especially when they're, you know, say there isn't a bonus structure, but you want to reward somebody who has, you know, I don't know, delivered a Herculean sort of effort. You know, I found those to be, yeah, to be a really effective. Um, but yeah, it's the surprise and delight element, I think, and of course the feeling of recognition and appreciation, which is usually the bigger driver. Okay, thank you so much for the discussion. Are there any questions at all, or any comments, or if anyone from the audience would like to share, yeah, anything at all? We've got probably another 5 minutes, so yeah, we could have some time. Paula, you love that we're working in our rewards and recognition program. Yeah, I know. Me too. I'm really excited about. There's a lot of cool stuff happening in rewards and recognition, and I think it's our time. Basically, it's our time to shine. And I think also more broadly, I think you know, as HR people, but specifically within rewards, we've been underserved by technology and like amazing, beautiful sort of platforms and tools that can empower us for a very long time, and then suddenly there's a lot of cool stuff happening in our space. So yeah, so I'm excited about the future. We have a question from Tobias. How do you balance setting the strategy with complete lack of operational capability? Oh my God, I hear you, Tobias. What comes first? Anastasia, any insight?
Yeah, such a common question, to be honest. And I absolutely understand this pain because I had to grow the function from scratch. So I started alone. And so first you grow the capability. It can be painful at the beginning and a bit overloading, but then you can advocate for additional headcount, but through the storytelling, through the result. And actually, I believe the reward function is maybe in HR is a function that really can show the most of the results and financial impact in the bottom line.
Yeah.
So you just should tell a good story to a stakeholder, how this additional operational capability that you need will help to achieve the business goals, and what you are bringing in terms of money, in terms of opportunity cost, additional revenue, whatever it influence.
And just to add, you know, maybe this is helpful, Tobias, if you have like a strong marketing team or an ally in marketing, I've found, you know, an internal comms person or a content person who can sort of come and help me with the storytelling. So storytelling internally has, yeah, that's helped me in the past, just to get what we need.
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, we juggle a lot of balls. So we're thinking strategically and we're doing all the operational side as well. So sometimes you feel like an octopus of doing all the nice blue sky thinking over here, but also, you know, doing everything over here, and answering the emails and sorting someone's pay that's gone wrong into the pay slip. But yeah, to Anastasia's point, it's just like hunker down.
Yeah.
And really make those you know, arguments for, you know, more hands on the deck. Especially, we are the other side of finance, really. You know, when we work with numbers, we work with budgets. So you know, we have the direct impact on the bottom line. The more people we have on our side, the finer the tuning we do.
Yeah, absolutely. We're similar to finance, but we think about we think about the people impact. So it's definitely a multi-pronged role and division. But I think in order to summarize, if we don't have any questions, I think what I'm taking away today is the unsung heroes classification. There's a lot that we're meant to deliver, and a lot of competing priorities. But hopefully today we touched on a few tactics in order to align the strategy with the business goals that we mentioned. Other than that, we'll be following up later with a recording. Do reach out and connect, on LinkedIn or elsewhere. I'm sure Figen and Anastasia, is that okay if people reach out?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah. We need the sort of peer network effect. And yeah, it's been lovely to have you both. Thank you for your insights. And yeah, hopefully see a lot of the folks next month as well.
Thank you for having me, Vaso. Thank you, Anastasia.
Yes, thank you everyone who joined.
Goodbye. Have a great afternoon.
Goodbye.
Bye.